Hello, I'm Soycat and welcome back to the second channel video. Today is a very good day for those of you who like demography because the census data for England and Wales in 2021 just came out, and this basically gives us a big update for the first time in 10 years to all sorts of data, including the ethnic groups. And this is a really interesting one because it results in headlines like this: 14 areas where white people are now in the minority, but it does have a really interesting point about basically how countries as a whole are going to function in the future because they are changing very rapidly. The very definition of what it means to be a nation kind of changes, and you'll see what I mean hopefully if you come on me for this journey, because the census data shows a lot of things, but the most interesting kind of headline statistic is the part of the white ethnic group which identifies, in England and Wales at least, as English, Welsh, Scottish, Northern Irish or British, that is to say from a place that is traditionally making up the United Kingdom. Someone who is white and from England, Wales, Scotland or Northern Ireland is now 74.4%, which is really interesting because I mean if you're from somewhere that is that number used to be a lot higher. It was 80.5% in 2011 and 87.5% in 2001. In just the last 20 years, it has gone from being, basically the non-white British, Welsh, etc. category has near doubled, and that is actually has more than doubled, and that is actually quite a nutty statistic because sure, if you're from somewhere that is traditionally very immigration heavy, I think the Western continents, Americas, are very heavy on this. Like if you're from America, it's like, yeah, of course, like white people, just because like we're majority that, it doesn't mean everywhere is majority that, and that's something, these are the 7 states that currently have white people being less than 50% of the population. Right now, white people are still a majority in every individual state in America, but that's just a separate point to say that although lots of countries are familiar with immigrants being a part of the culture. I mean, if you're born in the United States, you are an American. That is what it means to be American. Whereas in most countries in Europe, the Middle East, Asia, Asia and Africa, you are going to be the ethnic group from the place you're from. Usually, that's how people associate it. Like if I say someone is Chinese, you don't picture a white person in China, you picture a Chinese person being born there. The same is true for someone from Slovakia, or the same is true from someone from Libya. You're not picturing a Chinese person in Libya who's like, I am Libyan because I am born here. But that is that is why it's so interesting to hear that number is going down quite drastically. That is why people are so shocked to see that Asian British and Asian Welsh are going up, as well as all of the other ethnic groups which have gone for a large percentage point increase. I mean, in fact, if you look at this number right here, migrants as share of the UK population, you can see it's gone from about 8.9% in 2004 to about 14.4% right now. Or in absolute numbers, because maybe you think percentage points are skewing it a bit, you can see how there is a big increase that has just about leveled off since 2016. Did anything happen in 2016 to the UK? You should let me know. There must have been something, right? Leave a 6-paragraph comment if you think something happened at that point in time. Because what would it be that changed immigration? Like, would there be some big foreign policy to say? I'm just gonna need to know in the comments what you think that is. But there's always going to be someone who just doesn't get the joke, and that's what I always enjoy. So yeah, with that said, basically, migrants are going up quite drastically. They have doubled as a percentage of population. Non-white has doubled as a percent of population, and this is really interesting because it leads, you might assume well, it's still only 25% of the UK that identifies as not white English British, and in fact, if you look at white people as a higher level category, so including Europeans, it's only 19%, 18% of people who identify as not white on the census, which is honestly not that much. I mean, again, 1 in 5 people isn't that crazy, but where this gets really crazy is when you look at particular groups, okay, some are increasing faster than others, like Indians and Pakistanis and Africans are going up at a high rate. Caribbeans went down, if you look right here, which is fascinating. Black Caribbean, I should say. Is it offensive to say Caribbeans? I don't know if it is. I'm just gonna err on the side of caution here, and you can see how any other ethnic group has gone up a lot too. Also, Irish has stayed just about level. We're not getting as many Irish people these days. So anyway, with that said, there is this fascinating thing where you can say that well, it's not that high a percent. I mean, are you really going to be hurt by the idea of 20% of people being not white? In fact, why do you care about where people are white? But where this gets fascinating is when you look at it on the map. Countries are not monoliths anymore. I mean, were they ever monoliths? They're really made up of lots of cities, but to say that a country is one thing is kind of crazy, and where this is best proven is looking at this map of England and Wales. Again, Scotland's not in this data for whatever reasons, but looking at England and Wales, you can see that most people in most places are still white. Northumberland is 96.1% white, English, Welsh, Scottish, Northern Irish, or British. You can see how, Wales, the entire country, besides a little bit of Cardiff, where it's 73 or 80, are white, English, Welsh, Scottish, Northern Irish or British. This is true for most of the country besides some of the big cities, until you get to Manchester, where it's like 48%, until you get to Birmingham, where you get as low as 42%, or until you get into London, where the inner boroughs are at 28, 33, 14.8% of people in Newham are from the United Kingdom in an ethnic sense, which is very, very wild. I mean, the biggest city, the densest city, Tower Hamlets, 22.9%. There's got to be another one, right? Yeah, Redbridge, right? 23%. You can see there's some pretty interesting statistics here that, like, actually looking around London in particular, Luton as well, 31.8%, Leicester 33.2%. It is not just like, oh, it's a white minority in these places. It is there is a migrant majority by a large percentage in not just a small area of a city, in an entire borough of London, in an entire city. Is Luton a city? I think it's just a large town. An entire large town and an entire city. And that is what, again, like there is a big point to raise here about, like, well, why would you have any concern about that? What is the concern about someone being an ethnic group in one way? What's concerning to me is, what I think you should be more concerned about, I should say, is the fact that it is generally that people will, again, like, so if you look at Asian British or Asian Welsh, you can see that this is a map that goes very, very densely populated in some places, and this is probably not an ideal thing. I mean, it's no news to anyone that, wow, did you know immigrants tend to go to cities because that's where jobs and opportunities are, and that's generally why someone would migrate to a country, right? Also, look at this, like, that is 34. That is more Asian British, and Asian Welsh people in Tower Hamlets than white people. What if we go to black? I imagine black is more evenly distributed, if I had to guess. So black, all of this stuff, you can see, like, okay, it's still got a London bias, but then a city bias, and then also there's a little bit in Newcastle. Wow, 0.3% is enough to go green. Oh, I guess it's literally, there is no one black in most of the country, which is kind of a crazy thing to think about, actually. But yeah, you can see that, like, in general, the way this works is people tend to be in smaller pockets, which is, that is where this interesting question comes in, which is about, like, well, is that a good thing for countries? Would it be good, is it good for the United Kingdom that English people are over here and Welsh people are over there and Scottish people are over there? Is it good that Birmingham is majority Asian? It's one of those cities on the thing. Is that a good thing for a country to have, like, oh yeah, there's that part of the country where this ethnic group live, and this part of the country where that ethnic group live? Some people say, yeah, it's actually better that way. Like, I think if you take, for example, Chinatown, it's the first, although Chinatowns are really common in the United States, the first Chinatown in Europe, or maybe the biggest, there's some weird statistics like that, is found over here. Let me show you what is generally considered to be a very good, wow, look at this. This is amazing. You get to see, like, wow, isn't this crazy? This is the UK, but also it's Chinese. There's banks like, traditional ones like HSBC, like high street banks, but look, they're in Chinese as well. Wow, this is such a fun tourist attraction. Everyone agrees for a tourist attraction, it's great. If you do the same with the Indian Asian community, you got, like, Brick Lane, and it's like, oh yeah, there's this street where you go to get a curry, and isn't that fun? Look at that, there's Gandhi on this. Wow, this is truly a cultural experience. I love that exists. But when it comes to, like, do you want to have, like, ethnically segregated areas? The answer probably is no, right? The answer is a little bit more confusing on that, because if you look at this map, it shows the attitude in the United Kingdom. It's basically making a side question to the immigration one, which is like, what percent of the population demonstrate level of agreement with the statement the UK does not have enough space to accept more migrants? You can see the majority of England, besides London, and the majority of the country besides Scotland and London, says no, there is not enough space to take migrants, which is funny because London, you'd expect, literally has the least space to, but whatever, you can see that, like, that is the percent of the population. Most people say, wow, yeah, we are accepting too many migrants, and that's why seeing statistics like this is the interesting political question on the one hand, like, well, it definitely has all the economic benefits. It's not just happening for no reason, right? There is a deliberate choice to keep allowing people to migrate. Is that, should the political choice be made on the what is good for people? Because clearly it is believed by pretty much anyone who's in favor of immigration that, like, well, even if people don't like it, it has economic benefits, right? We need workers because, just showing it as a share of the population is interesting by itself. But if you look at the age distribution, you can see, yeah, half of all migrants are off the adult working age. They're coming here and they're working, and that's a good thing. Like, we want more people who are working in the country and fewer people who are not. That is how every country ever has existed and worked on an economic level. So should you ignore maps like this and people's preference for like, is there space to make the economic questions work? Is it a problem when a country which is built off an ethnic identity loses that one, is the second question. And the answer is really hard to say because this is new territory. Again, the United States and Canada and a few places like that maybe have dealt with this question before, and it seems like they are very successful for getting over it. But if you look at the list of sovereign states and dependent territories by immigrant population, you can see that having a large share of immigrants is the exception. China has 1 million foreign-born, I guess, immigrant population out of over 1 billion people, right? 0.1%. Madagascar has 0.1%, but I mean, who's going to Madagascar, I guess? But you can see that the majority, like, if you look at most countries in the world, 10% or less is the norm. And even within those countries, up to 10%, it's like, well, I mean, sure, like, South Africa has a lot of immigrants, but like, they might be from like Namibia or something. Like, is that as much of an immigrant as someone from, say, Brazil would be to South Africa? There's like a difference in that too. But the other question is like, so what about the countries that are really high on this list? There is a direct correlation between success and high immigration rates, but that's mostly because very successful countries, people are so well off, they're hiring people, they need cheap labor, they get it from overseas. I mean, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, like it's oil money or, like rich sovereign state money seems to correlate with that a lot. And it's really interesting on that question because if we look at demographics, right? So Qatar is a country, I think people are really liking Qatar right now. People have been saying a lot of really good things about how that country is run and their policies towards all sorts of things. But if you look at their age breakdown, they import workers by the metric buttload. I mean, literally, you can tell just by looking at this, they bring people in from India or other countries, and then they tell them to leave after they're done. Maybe building a stadium or something in a very safe, peaceful scenario. Pretty sure that's how it works. Anyway, so like a country like Qatar, or we'll use the UAE perhaps, as a more fun example, because it's like a little bit more balanced. No, it's not. It's even less balanced. So you can see the same thing. They want working professionals in their country because everyone wants working professionals in their country. Everyone wants people to earn the money. And then after that, they don't get citizenship and they leave at some point, and then towards the end everyone's great. It looks like they don't all necessarily leave. Like 60 to 64 is still very demographically imbalanced, but you get the idea that like people want working people in their country because who doesn't want workers? If there's 3 of you in a household and there's some stranger who comes in that you don't really know but he's going to work and he's going to pay money for you, don't you kind of want that? Like, well, it's a bit weird that he's living in my house, but like, well, he's doing the good stuff. But then what about when they become a burden, later on their lives? Is that what people still want? Also, what about the interesting question here? Because the reason the UK immigration population is growing so quickly, perhaps faster than some other nations, is partially because if you look at this, the age distribution, people, to make it a friendly country to immigrate to, lots of people in the UK have children. You can see the age distribution is double in the UK what it is in North America, or even the EU, or India, or the rest of like these countries. You can see that like it is a very, whatever the reason you want to say it is a friendly place to have your children, have them be born British, and then continue on a thing. Is that a good thing overall? How is that, like for a country, is that a long-term great decision? Because now these people will eventually become adults. You don't have to bring them in; they're already in the country. Or is that, is that not the ideal thing? Because when you bring people in from abroad, you have like strict criteria, and you're working out like how to bring the best of the best in. If someone's just born in, say, Birmingham or Redbridge. No one wants to be born in Redbridge. Honestly, should be a crime to bring someone up in Redbridge. But if someone's born, we'll pick a fun demographic here. If someone's born in, the white gypsies are very well spread across the country. Like they still make pockets, but good job to the. So if you're born in Finland, which again, no one should be born in Finland, would be a crime to have a child there. Sorry. Actually, it doesn't look like there's much great stuff happening here. But anyway, so this is Finland. Also, wait, you can dive even deeper into this data? Okay, I need to know. What is like the least white place in the country? This is a fascinating side note now. So it's going to be one of these London boroughs, like somewhere in Newham, right? There's going to be, or somewhere in Tower Hamlets maybe. There's got to be like an absolutely crazy area. So this is the City of London. This is Tower Hamlets, I want to say. Okay, so we got 17% in just anecdotally. I've been to Whitechapel, and because of the whole like demographic effect thing, I went. There was like a school of children in front of me, and every member of that school besides two were Asian. What's the word? Like South Asian, like Indian, Pakistani, etc. And I was like, wow, that is crazy. Like. That's like a really cool point of diversity for some. That's like a really like, isn't this weird for others? Because ultimately, I think, like I'm trying to make this grand economic point about like, is this a good thing? Is this a good thing? Do you care about the political point? But I think what this really comes down to, most people, isn't the demographics. It doesn't come down to the data. It comes down to like, what people have been told forever makes up the United Kingdom is the fact that to be from Great Britain, you would be British. If you are from the Netherlands, you are Netherlandsish. I believe that's what they call them over there. If you're from Germany, you are German. That is the usual rule that has happened for so long. But then the rules kind of did a little switcheroo. Literally in the last, like 20, 30 years, we're seeing a big shift towards European countries, which, if we're being honest, desperately need more people. Like if you look at Germany, just as a fun example, Germany. Yeah, there we go. If you look at Germany, like they have an aging population who are all of a sudden soon going to be not working, but wanting as much money as if they worked, because that is the system that we have. How do you fix that? Well, the answer is you get a lot more people over here that can work to, pay all the benefits for those older people. And so like working out how we can do that as countries is really interesting. But also there's an interesting point to go back to this list of countries by their population as percentage of immigrants. It's like, well, if 50% of your country, like in Bahrain, or to pick the highest like real example here, if 33% of your country, it's also Middle Eastern, if 30% of your country are foreign born, what does it mean to be an Australian? What does it mean to be a Swiss person to some extent? It actually just means someone who is a part of this one government. You are one member of this thing, and the very nation of a welfare state is built on this idea that there is something that links you and I, friend. When a welfare state is when you are not old, you pay benefits to people who are old. When you are not in bad health, you pay money for people who are in bad health. So that when you're in bad health, people pay money for you. When I'm old, you're going to pay money for my old age benefits and my survival benefit, and my unemployment benefits, etc., etc. However, that system has a huge twist in it, a huge breakdown when there's nothing that defines why these group of people are together. Like, why is it that you should, if you're brand new to this country, why should you be paying for my old age benefits? If you're brand new to this country, why should I pay for your old age benefits? There is a really interesting point there about like when everyone has a sense of what the government is, who it is for, what it is made of, etc., and what it means to be a part of the nation, we're all moving forwards. That's a great thing, and the world basically has to move from a place where being from Slovakia makes you Slovak, being from Czech makes you Czech. The world has to move from that identity, or Europe and Africa and Asia do, to one where like, oh yeah, you're part of the United Kingdom. Civically, you're a civic nationalist. You're here because you like the country so much and you want to pay in for that reason because you believe in these systems so much. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people begrudgingly say, yeah, that's the system. That's how it is. My grandparents paid into the NHS and I'll pay into the NHS. And then one day if I get cancer, I'll hope they look after me and don't kill me. And, like that. That's a system that some people are happy with and great with. But when it starts to be like, yeah, I moved here when I was younger, and now I don't know what's going on, honestly. There's some more interesting questions there. Anyway, if you want to know my opinions on race and white minorities, etc., I'm a little bit torn, right? So I'm, because, I actually am from one of these places that is a white minority. If you don't know, here's Luton on the map. Here's, I'm so good at it that I can spot it easily. So here's Luton on the map, right? It is an interesting place because even though it says it's 31.8% white, in reality, there are just lots of white places and then lots of places where you won't see a white face for a very long time. It's interesting because also look at this. You can see it quite clearly. 69% of people from Stopsley are still white, but then 7.7% in Bury Park. That's got to be the lowest in the UK. Wow, it goes even more precise. You can see like your street. Yeah, 4.5% of people in Bury Park are white. Like you just won't see a white, or like in Hightown, you can see it goes down quite a bit. People tend to self-segregate into areas around people that look like them or are demographically similar to them. And this has some good effects and it has some disastrous effects. I think the classic example people bring up is like people going on to further education. Like people always try to be like, the UK is really bad at this. But if you look at white and black, it's basically the same, 47%. Like other races do a lot better in that way. But when you factor in like money as well as attainment, it's like, oh yeah, well, white poor people do really, really poorly. You know, like even though Chinese people who are poor maybe are overcoming that a little bit, really it dives into this like question that like actually there's the second layer of like money that people segregate by as well, which honestly is more important to most. That's the real, you know, like air quotes racism, right? Is like money racism. Like, oh, I can't believe I've been near poor people. When you're near the poor people, you know they're going to be drinking on their porch and smoking weed and you know like making loud noises, and there's going to be people committing crimes on me. You know, like, oh, this is awful. That's where the real like racism in that is. And you know, it in a way, if you think about it. If you really think about it, I have like this understanding of the race, because you know I am as someone who is like from somewhere where it's not all white people, it's never really bothered me like what ethnicity you are, right? Like it's what's inside that counts. You know, tell me what's in your pockets and what money you have to give me, and then we can work out if you're a good person. But more seriously, so I'm from two of my grandparents were immigrants, and two of them are English. And so, you know, being like an immigrant, I you know, like I hate that. I hate myself a little bit. I'm like, oh yeah, these darn foreigners coming in here taking our YouTuber jobs from us. Also, you know, like I'm Irish as well as British, so I hate myself for being. You know, I hate myself for being a British colonizer, but I also hate myself for being an Irish, lazy, no good, you know, like drunk. It's awful. I'm Sri Lankan as well, so like I hate myself for being Asian. Like, wow, that's the worst. Like, look at me being not white. But I hate myself for being white too. Like, as my grandmother said rightly, God put people in the microwave. Some people they put in too long. Some people he put in too short, like me, and some people put in there for just the right amount of time, and that's us Asians, which you know, it's just sad that everyone else doesn't realize that fact. And is that enough offensive stuff at the end of the video here? I think it is. I hope you all enjoyed this. I think the thing that's going to change about countries is that we now have to work out what model do we use when it doesn't, you know, like you are not on ethnicity because you have thousands of or hundreds or even generations of lineage. Instead, you are part, you know, which you know could be changed, but usually was not. That was the fact. To like you are part of a country because you're born in territory that it controls, and you can move to that. You can move across different territories if you want to. I mean, isn't that the point of the EU? You're a German who wants to be in Spain. You're a Spaniard who wants to be in Finland. You're a Finnish person who wants to be in Bulgaria. These are all things which are fine and which work, but they do raise the interesting question about like, okay, so what does a country be made of? Is it made of just people who live there? And if that's the case, you have to be much more competitive to keep people. You can't just say like, yeah, well, you pay what we say we pay because we're your government, and what are you going to do about it? There is much more a question of like, yeah, you might genuinely just leave us. Like, people are going to be less loyal to a country. You know, for whatever weird human psychological reasons, people are going to be less in love with their country if they have many more options. And so you can either rely on people not leaving because like, well, my friends are here and I can't be bothered with that, or you can work out how to competitively retain and indeed not only just attract people, but attract the best of the best people. Can you do that at the same time as making the people born there want to stay? I don't know. Do you even need to? Honestly, is there just such a high demand to live in places like the UK for reasons unrelated to economics? Like, you know, is our history just so great? Maybe that's the case. Maybe honestly we got nice, you know, I love the weather here. I like the history. I like there's a place called Wendover. You know, like there's a shoulder. I could get a dog-friendly pub near me. Is this actually near me? I don't think that's true. I'm sorry to dox myself though. But yeah, if you if you want to go to a place, maybe we don't care about all those other factors. But I would guess that we're going to need to care a lot more, because a lot of people aren't you know, like honestly, what is my loyalty to the UK? I like it because I lived and I was born here, I guess. You know, is it the best place forever? Who knows? Actually, just a small update on that. Recently I stopped my like US visa process. But like logically, here's the crazy thing, right? Like here there are higher taxes, but in exchange there is free healthcare paid as part of your taxes. You know, if I'd have just spent my working life in the US, I could have then retired here and benefited from everyone. And you could do the same in many different ways. Like live in Dubai or Monaco in a tax haven, and then when you're done making your money and you have the money, then you bring it into the country, or even if you leave it outside the country, but then you go to the country, they'll look after you, and that feels like something that more and more people would be able to do. Or maybe I'm wrong, maybe this is all a lot of craziness over nothing, but for now, just be sure you'll hear a lot of crazy headlines, and the truth is there is an accuracy to them that is even more stark than it sounds like, because again, within some of these areas, it is even crazier than that. It is, within Roundwell Park, there are areas which, because, you know, diverse places are not diverse places. They are places with lots of miniature places put next to each other. There are some places where everyone is white, and there are some places where no one is white. They just happen to be so close by that it feels like it's sort of the same place. Because, you know, what is the difference between St. Catherine's Docks, I think this is over here, and what's the difference between that and a little bit closer to Canary Wharf? What's the difference between Poplar and Canning Town? I mean, there is a difference, but they're so close by that most people probably look at it from the outside data and just go, yeah, this is Newham and this is Tower Hamlets. This is all London. This is all England. This is all the United Kingdom. This is just Europe over here. Europe has history, I hear. This is the world. This is where humans live. And if you're a human, subscribe to the channel or give me money on Patreon. I will use it to keep making bad videos. This one I had to edit this one because my computer crashed midway through. So hopefully you appreciate that. I have a good day. Goodbye.